Welcome back to Educatorium Euphorium with a new hat. So now I'm on vacation and I've got a slight cold, so that gives me an excuse to make some more videos. There were a bunch of things I could have made videos about. One of my videos, debunking Marxist economic illiteracy, got a bunch of dudes from this Rizione.net coming on and flaming me and stuff, disliking my video. Someone left an interesting comment on an old video I made about Mitt Romney, saying, you know, if you're not a social conservative, you can't really like anyone in the field this time around. And then there's this big flap that's come out about how in Obamacare there's a provision where Catholic-affiliated organizations are going to have to cover their employees' contraception in their healthcare plans. Now these three issues are all related, so I'm going to give you like 3 seconds to figure it out. Alright, time's up. Figured it out yet? The relationship between all three of these is that if we followed and understood libertarian political theory and economic theory, then we could eliminate these problems. So the first issue was these guys from a place called Rizione.net came over to my debunking Marxist economic illiteracy video, and if you didn't see that one, that was the one where I wore the nifty little false mustache. And, you know, they left negative comments, called me names, disliked my video, thumbs up comments that called me nasty names. And I don't know if any of you guys from Rizione.net are going to be watching this video, but if you are, you should understand this. The accepted idea is that libertarians agree more with conservatives on economic policy. But if you listen to libertarians like Ron Paul and G. Edward Griffin and other people, you'll hear them lamenting about how the middle class is doing badly and how income inequality is increasing and how the banks are getting off scotch-free and how the corporations are embedded with the government. All things that should be appealing to Occupy Wall Streeters and even some socialists. This is why I think that libertarianism has such a great potential to bring together people on both the left and right, even socialists. I mean, Tom Sowell, who's one of the most famous libertarian economists of, American history, he was a socialist until he went and worked for the government, then he changed his mind. This is why it would be easier for libertarians to bring liberals and progressives and even some socialists into their fold than it would be for the conservatives to do so, because libertarians accept the economic conclusions of liberals, but just have different ways of reaching those goals. They might say, to stop the growing income inequality and the power of the banks, we need to rein in the Federal Reserve. Or, make it easier for people to go out and be entrepreneurs and grow the wealth, make the economy move faster, and secure higher wages, better jobs for American workers. If we can prove to liberals, progressives, socialists, whatnot, that our policy ideas will achieve these goals rather than theirs, then we have a very good chance of bringing them into the libertarian fold. On to the next one! There was a comment left on the Romney bomb video that was really interesting. It said, unless you're a social conservative, you really can't support anyone in this field. And full disclaimer, I like Dr. Ron Paul. If you want to see a great Ron Paul video, YouTube, do you want this man to be our 45th president? Best Ron Paul video I've ever seen. But back to the point. I don't consider myself a social conservative. Can I kind of mix a little bit of economic theory in here? Whenever something is handled by the government, it becomes a zero-sum game. And what that means is there's going to be winners and there'll be losers. For example, in the gay marriage issue, if the gay marriage proponents win, traditional marriage proponents lose. If the traditional marriage proponents win, it's the exact opposite. The gay marriage proponents lose. Maybe if we went back to what it originally was, where private organizations issued marriage licenses, it would be more peaceful, you wouldn't have this conflict. Now, people are going to say, well, what about, insurance sharing policies and, tax returns? Well, in the case of tax returns, this is an issue of equal protection before the law. Should families get special privileges over individual filers? But next, in the issue of private corporations, allow the private corporation to decide whether to accept or decline the license. We've got to try to make this be peaceful and voluntary, because with a free people like we have in America, the last thing people want are individuals and collectives forcing their opinions and views and their ideas on one another. Which brings me to my final subject, which is this whole issue about, in Obamacare, Catholic-affiliated institutions have to cover contraception in their health plans. This is the perfect example of people trying to use the coercive force of government to try to make people obey and follow the whims of each other. One of my heroes on YouTube is Lee Doran, and he's an atheist. He's libertarian also, and he's against this. This isn't just like a purely religious issue. I have good friends who are vegetarians and vegans. What if I said to them, if you don't pay for the machinery that's going to be used to kill, slaughter, quarter, prepare these animals to be sold, I'm going to take away your money. That's pretty much what the administration is saying here. And the proponents of this are just saying that people who are against it want to attack women's rights. Now think about if Christians said, you know, we have right to religion, and Christianity has saved a lot of people's lives, so why doesn't the government step in and subsidize Bibles so that people can buy them? Just by saying you have the right to do something doesn't mean the government should step in and subsidize that activity. That's taking it to a whole different level. And so I just think the arguments that are being made by the people who support this idea are kind of ridiculous. Anyway, the common thread in all three of these points I made was that if we listened to libertarian political and economic theory, we would solve these problems. At least in two of them, we're talking about the zero-sum game, and when politics comes in and gets its hands on something, it's going to create conflict. If we lived in a libertarian society, we'd be more prosperous, more peaceful, we'd all be better off, and free market rocks, government intervention knocks, and the price system bears, making the situation hairier. Leave a comment below on anything I mentioned in this video, whether you love me or hate me, you're conservative, liberal, socialist, progressive, communist, etc., fascist. And just no profanity. I'll remove any profane or sexually explicit comments, whether they're for or against me. Alright, see you in the next video.